Hello students, here is another example about the empirical rule. The question says the distribution of length of bolts has a bell shape with a mean of 4 inches and a standard deviation of 0.007 inch. Now, before we start anything, I would recommend that you draw the normal distribution and put all of the numbers underneath it, just the way I showed you in class. So let me do that with you. First, I'm going to create the normal distribution. So I'm going to create the bell shape. And I know that the mean goes in the middle. That is 4. And then the empirical rule adds standard deviations to the mean. So if I add 1 standard deviation to the mean, I will get to 4.007. And then if I add another standard deviation to that number, I will get 4.014. And then if I add one more standard deviation, I'm going to get to the number 4.021. And then if I subtract one standard deviation from the mean, I will get to the number 3.993. And then if I subtract one standard deviation, which is, I'm talking about this number right here, that is the standard deviation I'm subtracting each time. So I will get to the number 3.986. And then the last one, I will subtract one more standard deviation to get to 3.979. So I have all of my numbers. Now let's put the percentages inside. Remember, the empirical rule states that 68% of the data lies within one standard deviation of the mean. And then 95% of the data lies within 2 standard deviations of the mean. And then finally, 99.7% of the data is within 3 standard deviation of the mean. So here's my mean right here. Within 1 standard deviation, I have 68%. That means I have 34 on this side and 34 on that side. I know that the bell shape is symmetrical about the mean, so I can definitely do that. And then within 2 standard deviations of the mean, I have 95% of the data. So 90% minus 68%, and then divided into 2, you will get 13.5 on this side and 13.5 on that side. And then within 3 standard deviations, that is 99.7%. That means I will have 99.7% minus 95 divided by 2. You will get 2.35 and 2.35 here. And then finally, 100%, the area under the curve in total, minus 99.7% is equal to 0.3%. Divided into 2, you will get 0.15% in the tail, and in the other tail, 0.15%. So I found all of the percentages. Now I'm ready to answer this question. So the first question says about 68 of the bolts. 68% of the bolts manufactured will be between what lengths? I know from the empirical rule, we said that 68% lies within 1 standard deviation of the mean. That will land me on the number 3.993 and the number 4.007. So that will be the answer for the first question. So between the numbers 3.993 and 4.007. So to answer this question, I would say between the length of 3.993 inches and 4.007 is 68% of the bolts. And then to answer the second question, what percentage of bolts will be between 3.986 and 4.014? I know that 0.14 is right here. 4.014 is right here, and 3.986 is right here. So we're talking about all of this area between those two numbers right here. So what percent is that? We're going to add all of these percentages up. If you add them up, you will end up with 95%. So to answer that question, you're going to get, this is 95% of the bolts will be between 3.986 inches and 4.014 inches. The next question, if the company discards any bolts less than 3.986 inches and greater than 4.014 inches, what percentage of bolts manufactured will be discarded? So that area represents all of the bolts that are less than 3.986 and greater than 4.014. So that is this area right here. And to find the percentages, you're going to add these up. So you're going to say that is 0.15% plus 2.35 plus 2.35 plus 0.15%, which is going to be 5%. And then lastly, what percentage of bolts manufactured will be between 4.007 inches and 4.021 inches? So let's see what area is that. Let me put it in green, is kind of confusing, so let me put it in orange. So between this number and that number, that is this area right here. And you're going to add the percentages up. So it will be 15.85. So if you add the percentages up, you're going to add 13.5 plus 2.35, and you will get 15.85%. So basically, you're going to say 15.85% of the bolts manufactured will be between 4.007 inches and 4.021 inches. And that is the answer to the last question. I hope, again, this helped you understand the empirical rule better. And if you need any more videos, just let me know and I will make those videos for you. Thank you, and I will see you all in class.